Good morning everybody, and welcome back to the channel from a very hot and sunny North Wales, which is a very rare thing to say. But today I just thought I would come out and listen to some music, have a bit of a morning walk, and answer a question that I think is really interesting, all around what people think about as they're playing the guitar and when they're improvising. It's a really interesting topic, but I think the answer is pretty complex, and I'm going to try in this video to be as concise as possible and interpret my thoughts to make it at least seem like it makes sense. Now, you guys might be asking yourselves, Chris, can you actually effectively answer this question without having a guitar with you? And stick around, because in this video I am going to go and actually pick up the guitar to explain some of these ideas in a bit more detail. But I did mention that I've come out this morning specifically to listen to music, and I think that is definitely a good starting point, because that is where it starts and ends with me. So I want to talk a little bit about the listening process and how that informs what you actually end up playing. That's why I take so much time in my day to listen to music, because if it wasn't for my passion for just consuming as much music as possible, I wouldn't be the type of guitarist that I am. And I think a lot of people, when they learn guitar, they are just so engrossed in the technical side of learning, whether that is learning scales and arpeggios and chords, and whereas all of that is important, I think actually learning that we are here to make music, that is our job, and your guitar playing will sound best when it's musical, that is really something that you need to consider. Musicality is so important, and I say this until I am blue in the face, because you could be the most technically proficient and the fastest player in the world, but if you're not playing musically, then I am just quite frankly not interested. When you have people like B.B. King that play maybe 4 or 5 notes, but every single note means the absolute world to him, and you can see that through his music, that I find more impressive, and that resonates with me a lot more. And I think that is partly the distinction between being a guitar player and being a musician. So allow me to do my finest Casey Neistat impression and just talk you through the difference between a guitar player and a musician using a pen and some bad handwriting. So a guitar player is anybody that can proficiently play the guitar, so they probably know things like scales, and they probably know some chords, and they're probably pretty good at music theory. And all of that is great. You want to have all of those things in your kind of arsenal as a guitarist. But when you're talking about being a musician, this is all the stuff around musicality. It's things surrounding the importance of being able to play with melody. It's understanding how to play in a kind of a band or in a kind of collaborative way, where you're kind of thinking more about the other musicians and the other instruments that are being played more than you're thinking about actually being the guitar player. And in the kind of line between the two, I think the best guitarists are the ones that are more on this side than they are on this side. Because although it's great to be able to play scales and know theory and to be a real kind of master of the technical side of things, really what people want you to do is they want you to be a musician. So in my primitive drawing, where I explained the distinction between being a guitar player and a musician, I mentioned about melody, and obviously when I was out on my walk earlier, I mentioned about the importance of listening to music. And those are the two things that I really want you guys to take away from this video when you approach playing the guitar, and especially when you're improvising and soloing. So when you're thinking about melody and music, it's important to be a great big musical sponge, because melody doesn't just come from guitar. And for me personally, I couldn't care less about the guitar when I'm listening to music, because I'm not listening out for the guitar. I know what a guitar sounds like. I'm listening for those universal things, which is melody and hooks. And those come from all different types of instruments. It can come from vocals, horn players are, traditionally speaking, some of the most melodic musicians that you can find on recordings, because their whole role was to create the hook in a lot of the kind of Motown, soul, R&B genre. So I think the more music that you expose yourself to, the more well-rounded you're going to be as a guitar player, because you're just going to be a better listener. And I think it's really important as a practice exercise to find these hooks and the little things that you latch onto. Even if you're just listening to the top 40 on the car radio on your way to work, you know, those are still really valid things, because pop music, the whole point of it is to be melodic. And the best thing that you can do to become a more melodic guitar player is latch onto those hooks and then try and recreate them on the guitar. So after you've listened to music and you start to transfer some of that vocabulary onto the guitar, you find out that you have more colours to paint with. It's kind of the same process as learning a language, where the more words you know, the more effectively you can construct sentences. And that is what listening to music does for me. It just kind of broadens my mind, and it enables me to think and incorporate all of these different ideas. Whereas if you just listen to guitar music, it's kind of like trying to write a story, but you only have so many words to use to write it. So when I'm thinking about soloing, I'm thinking about all of those melodic things. I'm trying to make my guitar not necessarily sound like a guitar, but just making it sound like a musical instrument. So there are things like incorporating a major scale, but using phrasing, which is, again, another important thing to think about, which is not just the notes you play, but how you choose to play those notes. Even just taking a major scale, you can make it sound not necessarily like a guitar. All of those little microtonal bends and the movements and the way that you choose to phrase it with the rhythm and the way that you emphasize the notes are all the things that you develop from learning to listen to different instruments. I mean, that little passage that I just played there had a bit more of a vocal quality to it, and that's from listening to a lot of kind of gospel and old R&B singers. And all of this stuff is just what makes your guitar playing sound good. So guys, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings about what I think about when playing the guitar, and I hope there's some useful information that you've taken away from this. I just want to take a second to thank every single one of you for watching this video, and more importantly for subscribing to the channel. We've just hit 400 subscribers, which is awesome. Every milestone really does mean a lot, so if you have made it to this point in the video, then just leave a comment down below and write the word 400. I would really appreciate it, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to join these 400 people that enjoy these weekly videos every Tuesday, then just make sure that you consider hitting that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified when I upload. As always guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next week.